I'm fine. You're fine. We're all fine. It's the end of the world as we know it. What a show, what a party, what a show. This is American Freedom Radio. I am Marz, Theron. And this show, for lack of a better name, is... what is this? This is Conspiracy Comedy News. The big news this week is, in my neck of the woods anyway, is Hurricane Harvey. Yes, it's odd that they would name it after a puka. For those of you who remember the movie, named it after a puka. This is most certainly one of, if not the worst natural disasters in American history. And it's still going on, boys and girls. Harvey came ashore Friday in Rockport, Texas. Just before it hit, it became a Category 4 storm with 130 mile per hour winds. It turned slowly over the next 5 days, dropping about 50 inches of rain on Harris County. That's where Houston is, boys and girls. It's like more than any tropical storm recorded in the continental U.S. since 1950. It hung a right, and then it dropped 50 inches. It's like a year's worth of rain as it passed through the Houston area. We're talking trillions of gallons of water, boys and girls. This is a lot of rain. The so-called eye actually went back into the Gulf. It said, I'm out of here. Psych! And then turned around and came back. After it came back, it brought new waves of rain to like Houston and that area that they had hoped it was ending by then. But no such luck. The southern half of the East Texas area has been severely flooded, buffeted by strong winds. This is an extremely rare occurrence. It's left many people homeless. Reports of dead being found is rising. I think the last time I saw it was like around 40. But what's weird is that right now there's a chemical plant over there in Crosby, Texas. It's over there northeast of Houston. It says because of this flooding, it's like 6 feet of water they got over there. I don't know why they built that thing in a basin, but there's a lake just northwest of them that is overflowed. It's what do you call it? The dam and the earthen walls and the banks there, and I'm sure they're getting hit by that. But they can't maintain their power. The power's out in that area, of course. 6 feet deep water. Come on now. And their generators, those things are fried. They're underwater. So that because they ain't got no backup generators, they got no power. They say there will be an explosion within the next 6 days. Evacuating everyone within a mile and a half of that plant. It's been a rough week. Speaking of natural disasters, little Kimmy Jong-un, he fired off another one of his missiles a day or two ago, and they launched an intermediate range missile. That's what they call it. And it flew over Japanese territory before it crashed in the Pacific 733 miles off the eastern coast of Japan. And everybody thinks it's a big deal. Actually, they've been throwing missiles off in that direction for a while now. But all the other ones were like, they were like for launching, or at least testing the launching of satellites. But this is the first one that it definitely isn't for that purpose. The purpose is to carry a warhead, although it didn't have one. Well, mostly it flew over that. There's a space between the main island and the island north of that. It's a large island called Hokkaido, and so it flew in like in between, across the sea, mostly across a couple of parts of a peninsula is there. But everybody says, "Oh no, you didn't." People are pretty miffed at the concept. North Korea said the launch was on the anniversary of the annexation of Korea by Japan back in 1907. You thought we forgot about that, didn't you, Japan? Hey, that was like 100 years ago. You still mad about that? Pay back up, bitch, motherfucker! Is basically what the conversation was between them. Japan's Prime Minister Abe, he called the launch the most serious and grave threat ever against the country. It was the most serious and grave threat. It's just rocket flew over the country. Did he forget about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, huh? We blasted them with nuclear. We firestormed Tokyo. What do you call that? What do we, chop liver? What's he talking about? Kim Jong-un, he's really pushing it, you know what I'm saying? This is Trump's already used up every expletive he could think of. We're going to hit you with really big, powerful bombs. It's going to be really something special. And little Kim he just go ahead and fire off another one. He plans to fire off more. He warned it was a prelude to more military operations directed at the American territory as well, of Guam. Ooh, we're going to scare the hell out of Guam. It's a little island. I don't know, maybe Kim's got a death wish. Doesn't he know we have a history of taking over countries and draining them dry? We already carpet bombed North Korea back in the 50s. Hasn't he read a history book? You're not supposed to be talking smack. I mean, he's kind of been provoked, though. It's like South Korea and Japan have been having joint military drills and operations. So, everybody's rattling swords around him. And everybody acts like, oh, well, you can't do anything about it. Well, yeah, he's going to do things. He's going to keep on testing. That was a very important test for his systems. He needed to know how they work when they go out a long way to come back down. Can you blame him? Anyway, last week I talked about how Afghanistan has about $3 trillion worth of all sorts of minerals. Metals, oil, gas, you name it. They got so many things. They got jewelry, they got everything over there. They got the steel and the coal and all that. And they have a thriving opium growing concern, providing most of the world's heroin. Well, we ain't leaving Afghanistan. And we're talking about sending up to 4,000 more troops over there. And they admitted recently we already have 11,000 troops over there. We're supposed to have only had 8,700 and something because Obama capped it off at that many. And they finally confessed, yeah, we really got 11,000. So now, anyway, the reason I brought that up again is that North Korea, I've all of a sudden been finding articles that talk about North Korea. They got 3 times that much value and resources. $3 trillion over there. These people got more like $6 to $10 trillion worth of resources in North Korea. When you got that much booty and you're acting cray-cray and you're inviting people to attack you, maybe you should stop and look around. Because here they come. Here comes your magic 19th nervous breakdown. The mountainous country, it sits on top of some of the largest stockpiles of mineral reserves in the world. There are over 200 kinds of minerals over there. They got gold and iron and magnesite. I don't even know what magnesite is, but they got it. They got zinc, copper, limestone, molybdenum, graphite. The list goes on and on. It's like I said, they got up to somewhere between $6 to $10 trillion, depending on who you're listening to, worth of stuff just sitting there, and all kind of great sightseeing to do while you're over there after you've bombed, assuming you leave anything left. But we can go in there and bomb the crap out of them and then bring in drilling equipment and mining equipment. Kim's already, I was checking into a while back, they were already bumping up their opium production. They've been growing it over here and processing it over there, and they've been selling it through China. They're trying to get any money any way they can because and this is what they're mad about, we have been sanctioning them. And they can hardly they got all that stuff, but their mining production has been decreasing because of us. It's our fault. And they're mad about it. They can't even use what they have there. They got such wealth, they can't get it out of the ground. There's a shortage of mining equipment, and what they have is falling apart. He's trying to it looks like he's spending all his money on missiles. Well, he should be, spending some money on getting that electrical grid back up, because the electrical grid sucks. It's outdated. They have constant power outages. You look, when it gets dark, you'll look on one side of the street, they'll have electricity, but the other side of the street, they won't, and they'll alternate back and forth because, it might as well be equitable, right? So the average operational rate of his existing mine facilities is below 30% capacity. And they call it a dire economic situation. What it is a very dire economic situation. It's the effect of the U.S. sanctions that were signed into law by Obama in February last year. The law imposed mandatory sanctions for entities that are involved in North Korea's mining or metal trade. And that could be a large part of what Kim's mad at us about, don't you think? we definitely put a dent in their foreign export earnings, is what I'm trying to say, and I think that they're visibly miffed about it. So the United States has also contributed to their economic decline. The UN is nobody's friend. They have been imposing sanctions on Pyongyang since 2006. Why is everybody so mad at North Korea? Why don't you guys learn to get along? What else is going on in the world? International politics, international intrigue. Well, it's become obvious that we're losing in Syria. So, this is not a good time for little Kim Jong-un to be kicking the U.S. military hornet nest, if you will, because if we figure, okay, we have pretty much done as much as we can in Syria, we might pull up our military and send them over there, since they're walking distance from North Korea. Our mercenary armies, the Daesh, the ISIS, and the Al-Qaedas, whatever we or them are calling themselves this week, well, they're getting their asses kicked. We're even sending in helicopters to pull the leaders out of the areas we're losing control of to reassign them elsewhere. That's right, we're sending in our helicopters, and we're pulling out the leaders of Daesh, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and all those guys. Al-Nusra and the gang. Whatever the band, they changed names and they changed band members. Wouldn't it be funny if they suddenly showed up in North Korea? These ISIS's and Al-Qaeda's, huh? Or maybe in New York City, huh? Dressed as Antifas? I wouldn't put it past them. They got those balaclavas covering their faces up. They could have an Al-Qaeda tattoo on their face. So, but a couple of days ago, the Syrian government agreed to a deal with Lebanon's Hezbollah resistance movement to allow the transfer of Daesh Takfiri terrorists from the Lebanon-Syria border area, over there. They allowed them to leave and go to eastern Syria to the Iraq border. What? Well, I guess they're getting their asses kicked, and rather than wipe them out, they says, okay, you guys just get out of here, because the Lebanon, the area, they don't want people along that area there, along that borderline. For one thing, the Israelis are helping them in that area. So basically, they got a bunch of buses and caravans and ambulances, and they're going on down, and they're moving like 250 militants and their families. This is going on right now. If they aren't there by now, it's a kind of a drive. Yeah, it's a bit of a drive, especially considering they don't have freeways. They don't have an autobahn over there. So this removes them from where they're getting Israeli support and from the hospitals over there, and we get all that kind of guns and ammunition and trucks and all that sort of thing. But what's funny is they're moving to the Daesh-occupied city of Al-Bukamal, near the border of Iraq. Now, Syria and Iraq have also got a bit of an agreement where they don't want anybody. They don't want anybody along these borders, because they know that these guys haven't figured out, if we get in trouble here, we just run across the border over there. So no, they don't want this back and forth across the border going on with these mercenary armies. They figure they cut that back, and that'll shut the whole thing down. Bukamal! You've heard of Bukamal. A lot of restaurants named Bukamal. They're like 5-star restaurants, good restaurant. This Bukamal is located on the Euphrates River. This vacation destination is known for water sports, no-star restaurants, and the Faha'a Square shopping mall, where you can find great deals on used construction supplies and AK-47s. You're never far from a mosque, gas station, or pharmacy in beautiful Abu Kamal. So yeah, they're heading to a lovely, lovely part of the world. We'll just see how long it takes them to get bombed out of there. So yeah, as I was saying, the move of these mercenaries from the border of Lebanon to the border of Iraq may be pre-planned to bring about their ultimate demise. As I reported, I remember 3 months ago, a coordinated military operation in progress. It's this new Syria-Iraq border security coalition consisting of Russia, Iran, Iraq, and Syria. So yeah, they put them over there where they can get to them easier, is my theory. Yeah, they don't want nobody around there in them borders. Yeah. So the term they're using is the prevention of any buffer zone. Yeah, that's what they were calling it. If they're along a border area there, then they call that a buffer zone. So no, that was the thing that American, our involvement there was saying, well, we'll create this buffer zone here, and we'll put the, what are we going to call them? We're going to call them the soft militants. No, how do they, the nice guy militant. Yeah, the resistance. Yeah, the authorized resistance. Sheesh. So anyway, any advancement toward the border from now on, from months ago, that there is going to require military coordination between the Syrian army and Iraqi forces. So you can't go back and forth without an escort. And if they're wearing a balaclava and carrying an ISIS flag, they may be detained. As for their identification, I would think. So they want to guard the Euphrates River, especially. So, yeah, putting these guys right on the Euphrates River, I may be speaking out of school here, but it sounds to me like they're being set up. La 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 la. Okay, so, meanwhile, over there in northern Syria, with the assistance of Russian air support and government forces, they've killed over 800 members of Daesh during operations aimed at liberating Raqqa. This country, I like to talk about Syria because they've been bearing the brunt of the battle between the forces of West and East. This hegemony of the United States and our allies, Israel and Britannia and those asswipes and did I say that in public? Those the NATO, most of the members of NATO are just members in name only, but a few of them are actively involved. France will throw a plane in every once in a while and bomb some people and say, yeah, we did something important. So yeah, amid this operation liberating Raqqa, they blew up, they killed 800 members of Daesh. So this all happened just recently. 13 tanks, 29 pickup trucks with high-caliber machine guns mounted on them have been destroyed, as well as mortars and 9 artillery pieces. It's kind of all over the news lately that this thing is winding down in Syria, and you can call that a victory for mankind. Meanwhile, the U.S.-led coalition is killing more civilians, of course. So, yeah, we don't stop. We're still just... It seems like this indiscriminate bombing, this every once in a while, just to expend munitions. They don't care how many people they kill. They just want to go in and shoot off and drop more bombs and shoot up more rockets, and this way they can, have their bill that they have to pay to the military industrial complex continually running. Yeah, so earlier today they killed 8 more people. Since June the 5th, they've killed 832 people, including 204 children in Raqqa. Well, that province has got a lot of oil in it, and Daesh doesn't want to lose control of it. So our forces say, well, those are where the bad guys are. The rest of them are collateral damage. So what if they're children and women? Yeah. 64 Daesh, 26 pro-government have died in the fighting in the last 24 hours. There's a raging gunfire. The ground forces are shooting the hell out of each other. I hope that it ends soon. It's a drag and a half. So what else? Last night we bombed a residential building in Afghanistan. See, we're not just killing Syrians. We're equal opportunity mass murderers. Approximately 30 civilians, including women and children, bombed by us, the American devils. Yes, we got planes and we bring them in and we bomb the hell out of people. Doesn't it make you prouder than crap? So yeah, we bombed a building near the provincial capital of Pulialam. The local residents say that all the victims were ordinary residents. None of them were militants. They were just there and in their house in this, I guess it was like a little apartment or something. Apartment complex, I mean. And they blew them all to hell. So now Trump wants lies from his people about Iran. I just read an interesting article like that. It's like, no, lie to me. I want to get out of that nuclear non-proliferation treaty with Iran. I need you guys to tell me lies. Tell me sweet little lies. Son of a bitch. I mean, it's like the people around him are going to he can't just, he's not operating in impunity. He's not operating behind closed doors. He's just saying it out loud to anybody who listens. I need you, yes, he said, I want you to produce intelligence that would be used to declare Iran in violation of a nuclear deal. That's what he despises. He hates it. Ned Price, a former CIA analyst, said, anecdotally, I've heard this from members of the intelligence community, and they feel like they've come under pressure to make stuff up. They told him they felt the scenario that led to the U.S. invasion of Iraq was repeating itself, and that they were resisting the pressure to manufacture intelligence. They told me there was a sense of revulsion. There was a major deja vu. There was a sense of, we've seen this movie before, is what he said. Weapons of Mass Destruction 2, Operation Vilify Iran, coming soon to a war theater near you. God, I'm telling you, it's out now. It's out in the open. The people that run our government are terrible, terrible people. Have I mentioned that I disapprove? Well, at least we don't. Here's something else I disapprove of. In Germany, the German police said that a male nurse that has already been in jail for life, he's got life. 2 years ago, they put him in jail for life, for killing 2 hospital patients with lethal drug overdoses. They figured out that he's murdered at least 90 patients in total and possibly twice as many, calling it post-war Germany's worst killing spree. This guy, Niels Hugel, a 40-year-old, he was jailed in February 2015 for 2 murders and 4 counts of attempted murder or causing bodily harm on intensive care patients at Delmenhorst Hospital near the northern city of Bremen. Police said Monday that forensics experts had since exhumed and analyzed more than 130 additional bodies and had found evidence of a vastly higher death toll at 2 hospitals where Hugel had worked between 1999 and 2005. Hugel has admitted to injecting patients with drugs that can cause heart failure or circulatory collapse, so he could then try to revive them. And when successful, he would shine as a savior before his medical peers. This is what he was doing. He did it because he was bored, he said. He earlier testified that at times he acted out of boredom, that he felt euphoric when he managed to bring a patient back to life, and devastated when he failed. Oh, I injected them with poison, but I tried to save them. I really did. Holy free holies, this guy's a crazoid. They should, give him life in front of a firing squad. This is not a good person. The grisly revelations date back to June 2005, when a female nurse actually witnessed this guy trying to inject a patient at Delmenhorst Hospital. The patient survived, and Hugel was arrested, and in June 2008, he was sentenced to 7.5 years in jail for several cases of attempted murder. And now, apparently, they've upped it to life, and more life. And extra life. I don't know if they got the death penalty over there, but time to reinstate it. I don't really. I used to be with Amnesty International, so I personally am not supposed to approve of the death penalty. But come on now, sometimes there's an exception to every rule. Speaking of horrible people, an Israeli court has ordered Bedouin families, these Bedouins, to reimburse the state for the cost of demolishing their homes. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that the Israelis constantly come in and bulldoze people's homes, and that's what they've been doing for a long time. Then they build these illegal settlements on top of the demolished homes, and they do that because they want to make sure that anybody who was living in those homes no longer can say, that's my house over there and I want to move back into it. They're gone, and there's these apartment complexes built in their place. Property lines would be difficult to establish because they just build these things willy-nilly. Talk about chutzpah, they ordered them to reimburse. Israel has bulldozed Negev village of Al-Araqib, Why can't they call these things something more easy to pronounce? Al-Aqib, they've bulldozed it over 100 times since 2010. Really? In 7 years, they bulldozed it 100 times. Because I guess they go back in, they try to like rebuild it right away. As soon as they get bulldozed, these guys run back in. It's self-defense. They rebuild their houses. Well, 6 residents, they decided, they took them to court, and the judge said, you must now pay for 8 of those rounds of demolition. Yes, that's what they said. These residents must pay 262,000 shekels, that's about $72,000, for the demolition costs, and an additional 100,000 shekels for the expenses of the state's lawyer. Don't forget the lawyers. No, don't get me started on the lawyers. So another 100,000, that brings it to an even $100,000. I think they figured out we can use $100,000 and we'll calculate it into shekels, and that'll be it. It's too much of a coincidence that it came out to an even 100 grand. Anyway, they're ordered to pay to have their homes bulldozed, is what they're saying. You guys, we come in, we bulldoze your home, and you got to pay us. Because you keep building them, you keep rebuilding them, so we're going to have to charge you for it. You uncooperative, evicted person, you. In August 2011, the state prosecution filed a civil suit in Be'er Sheva Magistrates Court against 34 residents of the village, demanding reimbursement for the expenses involved in 8 rounds of demolitions that took place between July and December 2010. The state wanted to be repaid the estimated 1.8 million shekel outlay for the police forces, the inspectors from the Green Patrol, and the contractors who carried out the work. Attorney Khaled Sawali, who represented the residents, said they are considering an appeal. I think we ought to appeal this. It doesn't seem right. He said the behavior of the prosecution was abusive towards the defendants. You think? The state demolished the village in violation of the law and went one better and demanded compensation for an act that wasn't legal in the first place. I believe that the verdict ignored the substantive arguments we raised, including the fact that the issue of ownership that is the object of the suit is still pending before the district court. Arab Israeli lawmaker and member of the Knesset, Ayman Odeh, said, "This is another of the tricks used by the state to wear down and break up worthy civil struggles, like the struggle for the right to a respectable place to live. Instead of pushing the residents to the wall, the state must provide shelter for the villagers and stop the campaign of demolitions and harassment. The court's ruling brings the state's cruelty towards Arab citizens of the Negev to new heights. The state, which is trying to implant trees in an effort to uproot people from their land, refuses to recognize the villages, most of which existed before the Israeli state's founding. Now it is also choosing to financially ruin anyone who dares to raise his head and fight the decrees by civil and democratic means." This guy's in the Knesset, okay? He's an Israeli, he's an Arab Israeli, they call him. He's an Arab Israeli lawmaker in the Knesset. I'm glad to see that within their own government they have people standing up for the rights of the oppressed people that they came in and stole the land of. I find that interesting. Because usually the Israelis just call in an airstrike and then build settlements for Israeli settlers on the blood, bones, and ruins left behind. I mean, why? I guess bombs are more expensive than running a diesel engine on a land grader, on a bulldozer. Well, now it's time for the protest report. That was kind of a protest. What's going on? People are protesting. They're all angry. They're out there all over the world protesting. I tell you, they're protesting Saturday. Hundreds of people opposing a right-wing gathering have held protests in the U.S. city of San Francisco to condemn white supremacists and bigotry. Wait a minute. Wasn't that called off? Well, it was. But they went out anyway, even though there was nobody there to protest. The protesters gathered at Alamo Square Park in spite of the cancellation of the right-wing rally and a press conference by leader of Patriot Prayer, Joey Gibson, I talked about this a week or two or three ago when they were setting it up. It says everybody was calling them racist white supremacists, and they were going to have a prayer rally. And it's like, excuse me, the guy who was organizing and got the permit, he isn't white. And the speakers weren't white. There was one speaker that was white. I hate to even talk about race because, that's so divisive just to even point out that races exist. Because in actuality, I'm more of a scientist, you know what I'm saying? You people know me. We're all of the same species. Homo sapien. And it's like, we're humans. It doesn't matter the color of our skin. Sheesh. So anyway, moving right along, these guys, they canceled it, and then they said they would they'd have a meeting in another building close by. It's going to be they just want to have some prayer. They want to get people together in the community. They're religious types, and I guess they're just trying to show the world that maybe, just maybe, they're not such bad people after all, and they're not racist. They're being unjustly called racist. Just because they're, I guess, right wing. That's what they're doing. They're separating us into right and left. And they're trying to say that the right is racist and the left is what? Stupid? I don't know. I guess so. Moving right along. There's another rally. They're all over the country. Ever since that one in Charlottesville, it's just been nuts, one after another after another. It doesn't seem to make any sense at all. That it's like they're going after the statues, the Confederate statues, just crazy. So the Sunday in Berkeley, they had a rally called "Say No to Marxism in America." Say no to Marxism in America. That was the name of the rally. Sheesh! But it was actually denied a permit and canceled. But that didn't stop thousands of protesters from gathering over there at Berkeley's Martin Luther King Jr. Civic Park. Cancel schmancel, they went anyway to voice their opposition to racism. The police actually said they allowed more than 100 Antifa members clad in black attire, holding shields emblazoned with the words, "No hate," and waving a flag identifying themselves as anarchists, to enter the area to prevent violence. The police said they let them in to prevent violence. Oh, really? These hooded violence preventers, they attacked the Trump supporters in the crowd. As soon as they came in, as soon as they let them in, fling, they just came in swinging and hitting and banging. They injured at least 5 people. Then the police used tear gas to break it up. At least 14 people were arrested. They were charged with violations of the city's emergency rules, banning masks, sticks, and potential weapons inside the demonstration area. I saw the video. They let these people in with their masks, sticks, and potential weapons. I'm telling you, the police are in on it. It's a staged. These events are all staged. Mass sticks are carrying. Well, just fine. They figure they're just fine. They don't care. I'm tired of this whole thing. But anyway, let's see. Where else are they protesting? Almost 500,000 people have taken to the streets in the Spanish city of Barcelona. Yes, they say Barcelona with a T-8. I don't know why, but they say it that way. To condemn violence. They're taking to the streets to condemn violence following recent terror. Oh, but these are legitimate violence, terrorist attacks in Spain. That's interesting. I mean, it's like these guys, these terrorists, they do some horrible things, and then these people come out and they're demonstrating like, oh, it's like the terrorists going to see, oh, wait, these people don't want us to do it anymore. Look at them. They got the signs and everything. They seem so sincere. I guess we'll stop being evil puppets of the Soros and all that come in here. These paid attackers, these mercenaries. Sheesh. The demonstrators, 500,000 of them by the police estimates, they participated in this march on Saturday to show unity in the face of car rampages in Barcelona and Cambrils that left 14 people dead and more than 100 others injured last week. Emergency workers, police officers, firefighters, city officials were at the front of the procession, aiming to send the message that peace would prevail over terror and that the city was tolerant of diversity. Yes, The marchers carried signs and banners that read, "No to Islamophobia," and "The best response, peace," and "I'm not afraid." Well, they're saying that we have to say we're not afraid, but you obviously feel it can happen to you at any time, and that is scary. But fear cannot beat us, and we cannot stand still. We have to show that we keep living. That's what we have to do, a demonstrator was saying. Makes sense. Put up a brave front. At least you got some exercise. Spain's King Felipe VI, Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy, and representatives of all major Spanish political parties also joined the Saturday march. Well, that's very cool. Wait a minute. Spain's got a king? Why am I not kept informed of these? They got a king? That's crazy. That's crazy talk. Who do they think they are? England? Where else are they protesting? Yemen! They're protesting in Yemen! They're visibly miffed in Yemen! Hundreds of people in Yemen have held a protest to voice their outrage at recent Saudi airstrike that hit a residential area in the capital, Sana'a, killing over a dozen people, including women and children. They need to protest with anti-aircraft, shoulder-mounted heat-seeking missiles. Demonstrators convened at the site of the deadly air raid in the southern neighborhood of Faj-Atan on Saturday, a day after Saudi warplanes pounded 2 residential buildings there, killing 14 civilians, including 2 women and 6 children, and wounding 16 others. It ain't right what they're doing to Yemen. It just ain't. Many human rights activists also took part in the demonstration, calling on the United Nations to launch an investigation into Saudi crimes against Yemeni civilians. I know that's like, what's the UN's doing? And why isn't anybody paying attention to this? This is just not right. I mean, there's war going. There's people are being slaughtered. Civilians are being slaughtered in country after country after country, and we pretend we're the police officers of the world, and yet what are we doing? Oh yeah, we're bombing civilians. That's right. I forgot. We're doing our job as the police of the world by bombing and murdering, just like our buddies in the House of Saud. So yeah, this guy said, we consider the aggression as a crime against humanity, and a war crime committed against the Yemeni people. I'm surprised to find the United Nations and Human Rights Watch or other international organizations speaking about various crimes, while the people of Yemen are suffering from crimes and massacres from the first day of aggression until today. That's Muhammad Ali al-Houthi speaking as the chairman of the Supreme Revolutionary Committee of Yemen. I'm with you. I hope you get peace soon. But they couldn't be doing this if it wasn't for us. Who do you think gave all that money to the Saudis and all those weapons? That's us. It started a long time. As soon as they discovered oil in that desert, suddenly the House of Saud became this inbred group of crazy people. And now they want to expand and take over the countries along their border. They already, I guess, have an agreement with Oman. But once they lost their puppet leader in Yemen, now they're just mass murdering until they get their way, like spoiled children with jets and missiles. Oh, they're also protesting in Israel. Well, I didn't know that. A large group of people have gathered outside the Attorney General's home demanding the immediate indictment of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over corruption charges. They've been protesting over there for like months. On Saturday, some 2,000 people took part in the protest in the city of Petah Tikva outside Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit. Why doesn't it get a different name? Mandelblit? I'd be angry too. Outside of his home over Netanyahu's various high-profile corruption charges. Demonstrators accused Mandelblit of foot-dragging on Netanyahu's corruption probes, in one of which he is suspected of having received gifts from businessmen overseas. It seems petty, but take him down. Take old Netanyahu down. The man is a Luciferian. What else? They've been protesting in Pakistan, and the police have fired tear gas canisters and used batons to disperse the protesters. What are they protesting in Pakistan? What could they possibly be angry about in Pakistan, you ask? Us! They hate us, the anti-U.S. protesters in the southern port city of Karachi. Clashes broke out on Sunday when Pakistani security forces blocked the march of dozens of Shia student protesters who tried to reach the U.S. consulate. They said police officer Irfan Barak, adding that at least a policeman sustained injuries in the process. The demonstration was an apparent reaction to U.S. President Donald Trump, who accused Pakistan a week ago of giving safe haven to agents of chaos, of violence, and terror. What, Donnie? You said what? You can't you keep your mouth shut, keep your fingers off of Twitter for 5 seconds? Jeez. Yeah, the people that are killing American troops, apparently, Donnie Trump was saying that they run back into Pakistan and hide. Leftovers from the old days in which Osama bin Laden was allegedly hiding in Pakistan. So yeah, Islamabad has flatly rejected Trump's allegations, saying its troops fight against militants and that the Pakistani nation has made sacrifices in the war on terror since they joined with the U.S. in 2001. You ingrate, you stupid orange-haired cad. Meanwhile, another group of protesters in the capital held a peaceful demonstration called Defense of Pakistan, denouncing Washington's policy. Pakistani troops have for a decade been battling militants to curb insurgencies by the terrorist groups of Taliban and Al-Qaeda. The army has managed to reduce violence across the country in recent years, following a series of counterterrorism operations conducted against militants. But every so often, remnants of terrorist groups, they carry out periodic bloody attacks, both against people and the armed forces, particularly in the northwest. These are mountainous countries, but you don't want to be too mean to the Pakistanis. Come on now, they've sort of been our allies, and they got nuclear weapons. You better walk softly and carry a big stick. Guatemala, they're protesting in Guatemala. They've demanded the ouster of President Jimmy Morales over his attempt to expel a UN official probing corruption charges against him. What? They don't want him to get rid of that. Finally, a country that wants the UN there. Hundreds of demonstrators from indigenous, rural, and student groups staged protest rallies in the historic center of the nation's capital, Guatemala City, on Monday, demanding the resignation of Morales. They think that he's immoral, the immoral Morales. Jimmy is a former television comedian. What? Brother, a fellow comedian. He rose to power less than 2 years ago on a presidential campaign pledge to root out the corruption that toppled his elected predecessor. You know, as gigs go, this one is definitely out of the frying pan into the fire situation. You know what I'm saying? Boy, talk about some tough hecklers. The students were chanting, "Bring Jimmy Morales to justice," and "Do your good stuff," and "Get off the stage, you hack." It's a rough crowd, I tell you. It's a rough crowd over there in Guatemala. Sheesh. I guess they're saying that he's just as bad as the guy he replaced. And they're protesting in Guam. Are they protesting North Korea, threatening to bomb them, threatening to shoot missiles at them? No! Last week, the military announced that Black Construction Corporation was awarded a $78 million contract to build a firing range for the incoming Marines on land which the community has said is one of the last pristine places on the island. We've already got 6,000 troops there. Why are we bringing in more? 6,000 troops on that tiny little island. Yesterday, hundreds of protesters staged a rally to show their opposition. They marched on the Guatemanian governor Eddie Calvo's complex, carrying signs reading, "Not your target practice," and "Death by firing range," under a banner reading, "Save Retidian." That's the name of the area in the Guam National Wildlife Refuge, which is threatened by the proposal by the federal government. The U.S. military has a long history of doing this. They currently own 27% of that island. I wonder if they bought it or if they just took it. You know, do they really need to destroy any more of that island? I mean, come on now. It's not like North Korea and anyone else is actually going to attack a U.S. missile base way out in the Pacific over there. Why? Why would they do that? Excuse me? We got nukes. Guam is just one of many jump points and refueling stations we have. You know, if anything, it would be a target for airstrikes. So why do they need another area to go out there and do target practice? I guess run drills with the military. I guess you got to keep your army sharp. Since they got 6,000 troops there, I guess they're sitting there in reserve. We got to keep training them. Got to keep training them. But we're going to ruin that island. I'm telling you, it's a terrible, terrible idea. So what else is going on? Let's see. Rand Paul's back in the news. He tweeted yesterday, the militarization of our law enforcement is due to an unprecedented expansion of government power in this realm. He's mad about them giving the police, leftover military equipment. He said, Americans must never sacrifice their liberty for an elusive and dangerous or false security. I agree. It's like, well, we have military. We used to have this law called posse comitatus where they're not allowed to have military out there. Now you can't tell the military from the police without a program, because these guys are dressing up in heavy military garb and they're carrying heavy military weapons. The days of Andy Griffith and a sheriff just wearing a shirt and a badge with no gun, that's long gone. The former presidential, he was a candidate. Yeah, he argued that the heavy use of war zone equipment fuels a sense of fear. You think there, Randy? And anger against police and makes it look like an occupying force. It sure does. The police involved were equipped as if they were going to war, even though they were supposedly there to help protect the community and help maintain peace. Jeff Sessions, he's Attorney General Jeff Sessions, he's also angry about this. Let's see. He says that, look, we got to give them those things. Otherwise, that would be assets that would otherwise be scrapped. You don't just throw it away, do you? Yeah, so Rand Paul, he rejected the Attorney General Sessions argument. He says, I will oppose this move by the Attorney General and administration, and I will continue to fight for our civil liberties and criminal justice reform. The former Republican presidential hopeful noted, according to Sessions, the ban prevented police departments from getting life-saving gear like Kevlar vests and helmets and first responder and rescue equipment. Those restrictions went too far. Yeah, they're driving those big old armored vehicles, personnel carriers. It ain't right. I'm telling you, it just ain't right. This is Marz Theron, and you're listening to Conspiracy Comedy News on American Freedom Radio. Yes, it is, and I will see you next week.